Welcome to Dr. O's Pop Shop.
So I'm going to take you now to Dr. O's Pop Shop, which is an archive of a curator called Dr. O who lives in the metaverse, who's a fictional character who happens to be my podcast persona. And when I was working and researching this project, I really thought about how shops are inventories of a certain person's taste. They're an archive. But also, I started to think back to how artists made pop shops and created merchandise that made art more accessible to a broader public, and particularly the late Keith Haring's pop shop from New York in the 1980s. And so what we've created here is the first live edition of the pop shop, and this is an interactive installation basically. The idea around this was to create something that spoke to the domestic, to the private, to things that archive and index a person. I started to work with an artist who goes by her brand persona Cran, which actually means skull. And our first collaboration was this t-shirt, which I had written this poem called The Sphinx That Winked at Me, that started with the words, "Kindness is cruel." And it was about a horrific moment in my life where I almost died. And she had no idea about that, and she wanted to make it into a t-shirt. And I realized that it was a way to also bring a kind of cultural production, poetry, a very rarefied art, into a mass or into a broader audience sphere. I suppose the character that was really important to me in my life was this poet called Langston Hughes, and I really got into art and cinema early on through a film called Looking for Langston by Isaac Julian. The back of this t-shirt is a fragment of a poem called Dare, which is in the end of the catalog, which is over here. And it's just this really beautiful thing that is about kind of the possibility of hope, and it begins like this. Let darkness gather up its roses, cupping softness in the hand, till the hard fist of sunshine dares the dark to stand. It's about confronting your demons. Creating this avatar became a way to express a version of me which is like doesn't want to be boxed or confined. They say that Dr. O is the world's most sophisticated of ass feet. Now, aesthetics is how we talk about art, but I have a speech impediment which I'm very proud of, and I can't say that word properly, so I used to always say in college ass feet, in that very precise and particular American accent. And so why not spell it out in a way people can actually pronounce, please? And then here's a suite of beautiful books that have all been published or co-published by the TTL, the Third Line, but we also, who are all in the show, and we also wanted to weave in the characters from our t-shirts. The newest one, which we're launching on this exhibition, is this picture poem by Dr. O called, well, it's called whatever you want to call it, but it says, "You blocked me from being myself," which is something that I think of the pressures that are put on us by society and digital culture. It felt very apropos. Just like this idea that they say I've got too much feelings, lol, because we are in an age of emotion is something that Dr. O is always talking about. We are very expressive and emotional. That is a double tote for two people, dog lovers and cat lovers at two different heights. Isn't that cute? But I need to find someone slightly taller than me, I think, to be able to grab the cat handles. Oh, and also, all the proceeds go to a charitable cause, which I don't have time to tell you about now, but if you drop Dr. O a note at info@artplus21.com, or pick up one of these postcards, which has Dr. O in a post-apocalyptic death scene with instructions, you'll have their contact details. And see you later, Habibi.
Never gonna pop, 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 never gonna pop.